Senator, if I could just briefly just offer something here. I just wanted to sort of to try to respond to a couple of things Mr. Brown said for the benefit of those who are listening, as well as my fellow committee members. When it comes to the Access to Public Records Act, Mr. Brown is right that the ACLU and my office have a disagreement as to the test that should be applied when evaluating whether or not an internal record of discipline should be disclosed. And that's based in our view on a change in the APRA, and although we weren't involved in the litigation that Mr. Brown referred to, that is the conclusion that Judge Melissa Long found in the Superior Court. She agrees with us in the way we see it. That doesn't mean that internal reports of discipline can't be disclosed. It just means that we believe there's a balancing test that has to take into account a bunch of factors. And in fact, pursuant to that test, which we believe is the right interpretation of the law, because in that instance, we're not acting as advocates, we're acting as judges, if you will, as the body that enforces the APRA. We have ordered the disclosure of internal affairs reports, and we probably will be ordering the issuance of others in another piece of litigation that's ongoing right now. So I wanted to clarify that. There's really a battle about the test, but I don't want there to be a misapprehension that this office thinks that internal affairs reports shouldn't be disclosed. It's an interpretation of the current APRA that Superior Court Judge Melissa Long agrees with. And so that's something that'll play out in court. And look, further clarification about that would be very useful to my office as we try to navigate the APRA, which is not a thing of statutory beauty, let's put it that way. The thing I want to address is, and I think it's whether it's in this context or others, I think it would be enormously helpful for us to have a discussion about body cam footage. You know, as a prosecutor, when I have a criminal case, I want to make sure I can protect the integrity of that case. There are two things that really drive me as police departments come to me and ask me about what is the right timing for the release of this footage. The first is, what are my ethical obligations under the rules of professional responsibility, specifically rules 3.6 and 3.8, which bar me from engaging in pretrial publicity, and the police are an extension of me for purposes of a case that's being charged in court. It's not clear whether or not those rules prevent us from releasing body cam footage. And so my office recently asked the Supreme Court Ethics Advisory Panel for an advisory opinion as to whether or not we could authorize the release of body cam footage before trial consistent with our professional ethical responsibilities, because there are instances where I do think that's appropriate, but I certainly have to protect the professional license, not only of myself, but also the people in my office. The other thing which really impacts timing in a criminal case is it's really important that by the time a witness testifies in court, that our investigation is complete. I don't think it's good for a case, regardless of which side you're on, for a witness to be testifying based on something they saw on television because body cam footage has been released, as opposed to what they saw in person. And we know that that happens. And we know that even where it doesn't happen, it is a terrific line of cross-examination for a defense attorney to argue that the person didn't really see what he says happened, but in fact saw it on TV. So if I bring a case against one of those police officers, that does happen to step over the line, and I'm glad to say that happens in far fewer cases than it does otherwise, then I want to make sure that in that case, if justice for me means obtaining a conviction, that I increase the odds of doing that, because I believe that is justice. And so this is a really difficult area of the law. I know that Mr. Batista also deals with these issues in the context of APRA, and we're really working hard to try to come up with an avenue forward that protects the integrity of a criminal case and is consistent with our ethical obligations. And that work is ongoing. To the extent this panel or anyone else wants to weigh in on that and help us reach a good conclusion there, I'm always open to those conversations. So thank you for giving me an opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to express those points.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further insight, comments, questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. To Mr. Naraha, it's the optics. And so I'm looking at this in a community view, and the optics don't look very well sometimes. And I'm going to speak in regards as a Black person, particularly a Black man. The optics does not look well. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration And I think that's something that folks need to sit around the table. But what I understand are the legalities. And it's the legalities that presents a gray area in many instances. And as a result, we find ourselves stuck between a rock and a hard place. And we recognize what has happened recently in the last few years is the cell phone that catches everything. And so as a result, whether it's a body cam or a cell phone, what we're finding as a community person, the optics are not good. And that has an impact in regards to not just transparency, but the trust. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree more. I totally agree, Reverend, and I think that is our biggest challenge is, protecting a case where we view a prosecution as being necessary and maintaining community trust. And that is a very difficult place for a prosecutor to be. Ultimately, if we brought a case, we want to ensure our best chances at conviction. At the same time, we recognize the longer that it takes for that case to go forward, the evidence may be withheld. So we're trying to balance that in a way that I hope an opinion from the Supreme Court will help us there, the ethics advisory opinion, but we'll see when that comes back. But I'm very keen to that issue and have been working, frankly, here in the office very hard, both internally and with some of our community partners to try to reach the right place on that. But it is a very difficult situation, and I truly appreciate your view on that and understand it. So thank you.